Okay guys, as promised, I said I'd go over how I handle the lineups as well. So looking at Minnesota Berserkers again, we're going to take a look at how I set up the lineups versus right hand and left hand pitchers. We use the DH only, obviously, so I don't bother with these two slots, only these two. So the first thing I do is right hand pitchers. I have a specific filter that I've created for batting stats, just like pitching stats in Complex, and it gives me the columns that I like to take a look at. The one I most focus on is runs created. I'm not much of a WAR guy. I'm more of a lover than a fighter myself. Anyway, so the first thing, right hand pitchers, I go to the split. I take a look at the stats versus right-hand pitchers. I look at the major league only since I'm doing the major league roster, and then I sort by runs created for 27 outs. And then what I do is I create a lineup keeping the players that create the most runs at the top. Sounds pretty basic. And then I look for opportunities for platoon players that might be really good against a right-hand pitcher versus a left-hand pitcher to see if they should be in the lineup. And without looking any further, you could see Roger Perry is definitely one of those hitters. In over 100 plate appearances, he's got a pretty good batting average, very decent on-base percentage, and a decent slugging percentage, and pretty good runs created per 27, just under 7. So he would be a guy I would look at trying to get into the lineup, either at one of the positions he does play at or at the DH spot. So the first thing I do is I take a look at the players that are in the lineup right now, and I focus on the top 4. So first one, let's see Roger Perry, what positions he plays. He plays second and third, pretty good, and I would not recommend him at shortstop. So I'll take a look at my second baseman, and that is Joaquin Rodriguez, who is going to walk at the end of this year, which doesn't matter because this team is being contracted anyway. But you can see he's a pretty good hitter as is, so we don't really want to take him out of the lineup. And then for third base, we have Jim Burry, who has great stars, but in terms of actual production, he's not quite doing that great against right-hand pitchers. So our options would be to put Perry at third base or look at DH. And DH, we have Tanaka, which, based on minimum plate appearances, is definitely doing a lot better than Burry. So what I would recommend in this case is and considering I have another third catcher in the lineup, I probably would take a look at using Perry at third base, or at least maybe getting him a start every second day. And for second base, I would put if starter's tired, and then the same for shortstop. That's one idea. You could also put Perry in at the starting lineup if you want, but Burry, he's in a little bit of a slump. He is highly rated. He's got fairly decent ratings here, and maybe he just needs a little bit more time. Who knows? So having said that, I take the top 4 players in green based on runs created per 27, and I sort them by the slugging percentage. So looking at least to highest, I take the catcher or the DH. He's got the lowest of the top 4, and I would recommend batting him first. And then I would take the second person, which is Chavez, who's already in the second spot. And the third and fourth are fairly close, so you could flip-flop them if you want. But just to keep up with semantics here, I'd put George as third and Tucker fourth. Fifth, then I would just sort 5th to 9th based on the remaining ratings. So Rodriguez would be 5, Burry with 6, Arriola 7, Yamamoto 8, and Umaba 9th. And then I would just look at other opportunities here to look at getting other players in. Like Ochoa, he's also very good at third base. Let's see if he plays other positions. Right field and also first base. First base, we're not moving Georges. And right field, we have Chavez, so we're not moving him there. So again, his options would be third base or DH. So in this case, I'd probably put him as the backup for Tanaka at DH and maybe play him every other day and see who actually could win the position. Lou, left field. He's actually doing a lot better based on his power numbers than Yamamoto. Let's take a look at the defense. He's got at left field 68. Pretty good arm, but that range is not very good. And then we look at Yoshiki, and he's a much better defender. So then you just have to make a decision if you're going to go for the bat or the defense. I'm a fan of the bat, so I typically would put Lou in, and I would put Yamamoto as a backup at all three positions here. And then he would be definitely a candidate to be a defensive sub. We'll do that a little later. And that's pretty much it. So with Lou moving in, I'd move him above Burry based on the ranking order that I discussed. So he would bat 6th and everybody else would drop down 1. I put starters tired. And then Williams, backup catcher. He hasn't done much, so I just leave him just like that. We definitely don't want to take Tucker out of the lineup. You could do your utility 2s here. So, Perry does second, third, and short, and we've put him here in utility 1, so that's fine. Ochoa, he could be the backup for first, second, third, left, and right. So, first, second, third, left, and right. He's already there. Good job. And then that would leave really no spot for Yasuda at first. But to get him in some playing time, we'd probably just put him in. Oh, he was already there as the backup for the first baseman, so that worked out good. So I'll put Ochoa back. So that all works out pretty good. Then I look at the defensive subs. So I switch my screen to position ratings. Then I sort by the highest. So catchers, Tanaka, she's the best defensive catcher. But since he's DH, I don't want to pull him out of DH because then my pitcher has to bat. So then it's between Tucker and Williams. So Tucker's got a really good arm, which I like. Williams pretty close, but I'd leave Tucker in there. Plus, we'd like to keep his bat in right to the end if possible. First base, Georges. He is a 34, very poor. So I would look at putting Yasuda. He's a 60, and he's already there, so that's good. Second base, we have Rodriguez. And Rodriguez is very bad at second base. And we have Perry, who's a much better option. So we have him there at second base. Good job. Third base, we've got Burry. He's the best option, so we don't have to change anything there. And then shortstop, Yamada, best option there. So he's already there, no need for a backup there. Then we look at left field. We got Lou, who's okay, but Yamamoto is a lot better. And we notice that he's not going to be good enough to replace the center fielder, so we can go ahead and put him in at left field backup. Center field would be no change, Arriola. And then right field we have Chavez. And here we can actually upgrade and put Ochoa in for right field, which he's already there, which is good. So that works out pretty good. So that's how I set up my defensive subs. Going back to the stats, batting stats, making sure that I'm looking at right-handed batters only for the Major League, sorted by runs created. This is how I do my pitch hitters. So Perry would be my first guy. Ochoa would be number 2, which he's there already. Yasuda would be number 3. And Yamamoto would be number 4. Now for pinch runners, I go by the stolen bases and their speed. So I go to batting ratings and I take a look at their stealing, and I look at who's not in the lineup by classifying them in black text. And really there is no real great options here. The best one would probably be Yamamoto, so he'd be the only guy that I would put as a pinch runner. And I would repeat the same thing for left-hand pitchers. And from the first video, I talked a little bit about strategy and team overall strategy, and how I overrid that with the pitchers. The same thing applies for the batters as well. And this is what you're overriding. You're overriding this setup here. I use it. I'm not showing anything here, but you can have some general strategies here for certain game positions, which is very important. So I encourage everyone to utilize this. But if I go back to my lineups and I look at my hitters and I look at specific game strategies, I usually overwrite for the individual hitters, and then I do fill in these areas. So if I just do one as an example, if I look at Tucker, I'm just going to go back to batting ratings, and then I look at his stealing's 32, his speed's 31, and I think there's something for base running, so we're just going to customize that. Base running, see, put that back in there. So for Tucker, his base running is a 9. So using a scale of 1 to 100, that's 1 click for me. So I just move him up 1. And then his stealing's 3 clicks. So I go down 2. Hit and run. We can take a look at Tucker's contact. Is pretty decent, but not in the blue area. So I'm definitely not going to put him as a hit and run guy. And he's one of my best hitters, so he ain't bunting and he ain't sacrificing. And then for my catchers, it's the only position I do this. I always force them at a catcher. So you'll see a red C there. I do that only for the catchers. And that's how you should do, or at least look at, doing each individual player for individual strategies. So hopefully this video helps you with the batting lineup and some setup options, and I hope you enjoy it, and look forward to doing more in the future.